This is New Heaven, New Earth Lovers bench on December 18th, 2019. We haven't completely started yet, but we're beginning our process of pre-meeting dialogue here and entanglement. Reminding ourselves that we're one and that we're entangled with the full bench of one in eternity.
We're entangling with the bench of 24.
Yes.
With all of creation, with the Godhead, we're one.
Yes.
Our 7 gates are open and the river is flowing.
Ah, yes.
Yes. And I got the sense that part of what's needful in creation is to build some soil. That's like actual literal fact, but also there's something to that insofar as the new heaven and new earth are concerned.
Yeah, reminding us that we do function in new earth, that we're functioning in new earth as well as in oneness. Jane posted on one of the chats recently, last couple of days, that she was seeing the city of light as being the place that we are in all the names of God, is the city of light. I really liked that.
What Elliot said reminds me of, was it last week or the week before we were talking about being grounded? Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
I think it was 2 weeks, and that is a very powerful concept where we take our feet and plant them on the earth because we're staying as long as is needful. And that's immortality and eternal life proactively.
Yeah, I like that. Signed up for this mandate on a permanent basis. We're not dropping this thing.
Yes, rooted and grounded.
Yep.
Amen.
Working this thing right to the very end of it.
Immovable, always abandoned. And John, the Revelator, when you spoke about the light, the city of light, what came to me was, we all know about Christmas lights, right?
Yeah.
And then what came to me with the Christmas lights was Hanukkah, the festival of lights. And this is the season for lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hanukkah overlaps Christmas this year.
Mm-hmm. And it's mainly about the lights. Actually is it's the 7 lamps, which is the 7 spirits, as we know it.
Yes.
I just want to throw it out there because it came to me when you said that.
Welcome, Jane.
Hi, guys. Anyone shared any mandates?
We're getting warmed up here.
All right. Okay.
I was getting to build soil in new earth. Yeah, that's exactly the amount I'm supposed to say.
Interesting. Anyone else?
I was engaging the city of light in the concept of Hanukkah and Christmas. Lights, lights, lights. Let there be lights.
I've been seeing 7 ecclesias, the beginning of Revelation, chapter 2 and 3, and then New Jerusalem as the one ecclesia at the end. And I'm seeing that as ecclesias in the plural, we are like funnels that funnel in people into, I'll picture this like a cone or a pyramid at the large bottom. We funnel people in at the bottom, all these different ecclesias, but there comes a place where there's a line, which I'm calling the oneness line, like the tree line. There's trees below it, but no trees grow above it. The oneness line is the line between the many ecclesias, and above that, there is just one ecclesia. So all the many ecclesias funnel into the one ecclesia. It's like the multiple persons of the Godhead, but they function as one God. Really like that image.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's so windy up there, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've seen that for a long time. The thing we can't see is how practically to do it. And I think that's a really key question to go in for, is how do you practically do that? And the thing I've got for today is what is, it's back to what you brought a while back, Bill, a couple of weeks back, around the tipping point.
Yeah.
Because this is, I've had this vision of this tipping point, and it seems to be affecting everything. And I kind of just see it's just the most important question we have to get. And I think we actually are ready for receiving that revelation now, because I know we've had many attempts, but I think we've got to all come on the same page, because it will affect everything about how we do the journey, how we operate at OUB, all sorts of things, I think.
I agree, Jane. I see that as being the mandate.
And
Everything
it might,
has to
Bill,
be functioned towards doing that.
yeah, and it might be that what you've just brought is an adjunct to that, you know. How do we practically become one ecclesia when we've seen this tipping point, because it might change things.
Here's some of the rest. I agree that it is part of the same mandate. And we can just take off at this point because it's 7:11. Part of what my sense is that we have to all identify the mandate of building New Jerusalem, which is the one ecclesia, as being the mandate. The funnel part below that I spoke about, each ecclesia functioning as a funnel, funneling into the one ecclesia, the New Jerusalem ecclesia. The New Jerusalem ecclesia has to be the priority. It has to be the priority. Everything is funneling into that. Here's another part of this, Jane, too. The three harvests, right? Barley harvest, wheat harvest, grape harvest. I'm seeing the barley harvest as being New Jerusalem, as being overcomers, as being the bride becoming the one new Adam. And I am seeing that there's a door of opportunity to become part of the barley harvest. It's also the workers. The ones that are workers are part of the barley harvest. And that there's a point at which that door closes. And after that door closes, everybody's outside that New Jerusalem. And that's where there is not immortality. Immortality is only inside. And I'm also seeing that that Noah's Ark is the New Jerusalem ecclesia. It's this thing that we enter into, and the door closes, and death is outside, and life is inside. It's not that the believers that don't choose to become part of the barley harvest, by default, they become wheat harvest, and they do have a relationship and all that, but they don't have immortality. So death is outside the ark, and life is inside the ark. And there's a point at which the door closes, and that's that.
The one mandate I was getting, Bill, was the spreading of the light, the spreading of the truth. And I don't know how that correlates with the one ecclesia from all the ecclesias, but the Spirit has always told me that all the ecclesias have their own purpose and their own mission for God. And all those missions together make the one ecclesia.
Yeah, I agree with that, Kenneth. I see each ecclesia having their own variation on a theme as far as their own ecclesia journey, but they all lead to this oneness. And the other big thing I see too, Jane, and everybody, is that our presentation of New Jerusalem and of this oneness has to be such that we're not saying, come join us in our ecclesia because we have the way and we have the answer and we're the way to get there. It's got to be, somehow it's got to be a universal platform, and it's got to be a universal message that we're not asking people to join us, that we're actually asking people to enter into New Jerusalem.
Oh, but I think we've done that a lot. Like, we don't, all the groups, we say they're owned by the people, they're not owned by us. We don't, all the encounters are owned by them. We have done that, I think.
I agree.
In a way others haven't.
I agree.
So I think we've been doing that a long time. I think in Revelation that, it's linked with that vision in Revelation 2, is it, of the one of the Son of Man?
Yep, it's
holding
chapter
the
1.
stars,
Yep.
the stars, which are the 7 angels, and the 7
Candlesticks.
candlesticks, which are the 7 ecclesias.
Yep.
And I'm getting that the way we get to what you're saying, Bill, one ecclesia, is we have to judge those 7 churches, which are the new ecclesias that are forming,
Mm-hmm.
but have slightly traded in wrong way, and we're one of them. We're all trading wrong ways. So we judge the 7 ecclesias, then we can actually become the one Son of Man that is able to be the one, operate in the one ecclesia, and then we may know how to operate in one ecclesia a bit in a bit more detail. Because the issue is we can't operate as one ecclesia now because the others won't operate in the way we've had the revelation of how to do it. I think we know how to do it, but because they won't operate in that way, we can't function in that way. And also, I do think there's a few little things we're not doing well. We're not really being one ecclesia. We're being a little bit isolated in some ways that others aren't. So yeah, I don't know. What do you sense to this? This passage is unbelievable. Like, we are the Son of Man. I mean, I am absolutely blown away by this concept.
Yeah. Now add in, Jane, that the Son of Man is on the cloud with the sickle in his hand and wearing the crown later on in Revelation. So the Son of Man is also the one that does the barley harvest, is the barley harvest that harvests the wheat harvest. It specifically uses the phrase "Son of Man" is on that cloud with the sickle in his hand and the crown on his head. So that is the barley harvest. That Son of Man. So that's in addition to that. What I also see is Jesus wrote a letter to each of these 7 ecclesias, these citywide ecclesias. I mean, there was not 20 ecclesias in one city. There was one ecclesia in Ephesus and one ecclesia in Laodicea, and so on. And he pointed out to them what they were doing well, their good trading, and he pointed out to them their wrong trading. And then he gave them a promise and said that if you overcome, I will give you this. And each of those passages to each of those ecclesias makes it very clear that it's not the whole of that city ecclesia that's going to overcome. It's some in each of the city ecclesias will overcome. So I see that some in each of those 7 city ecclesias become overcomers and are now part of New Jerusalem. But I don't see those ecclesias entering in as a whole. It's not as if the whole ecclesia transitions from old to new. Some within each ecclesia overcome in the context of that ecclesia and then become part of New Jerusalem. It's like you're pulling some out of each of ecclesia, pulling them in to New Jerusalem.
Yeah, agree. And that's why, as fathers, you have to learn how to identify what we call RATs, reliable, available, and teachable. If you're working or arguing with people who are not like that, you're wasting your time if you're on the basis, oh, I've got to bring everyone in. You've got to just find the few key that are flowing, they're teachable, they're open, they're willing to lay down the doctrine. We can waste so much time. And the one thing I've been shown this week is to constantly keep asking, what do I need to do to make sure I'm not wasting my time, but I'm doing the most important thing that's going to last and make the huge difference?
Something my spirit's telling me, Jane, is that, I don't know how to say this, it's telling me not to complicate things and not to worry about getting more and more people, that God is saying he's given us everything we need and he will send who we need, but just accomplish our mission, not to worry about getting every person that we can get, that God will give us who we need to accomplish our mission.
Yeah.
We shouldn't worry about that the Spirit will send them to us, that we just need to make sure that we do the mission that he's put us on.
Yeah, we spot them as they come. We see them as they arrive.
I think I got something similar to that, but it's more like for the folks who are ready, available, and teachable, help them to do their job, because when they do their job, it all comes together to the big one.
Yeah.
There are swim lanes too.
Yeah, and you can see these people when they come. These are people that are ready to work. They're willing to work. They're not just receivers. They're givers. They're workers. They know they have calling as a worker in the harvest. They're not just passively waiting around to be harvested. They're actually going to be a worker in the harvest. They're going to harvest others. Not just in the sense of getting people born again, but in the sense of harvesting workers.
Yeah, we're forerunners. That's basically what the people are going to be in this group.
Yep.
As forerunners, to teach and learn and to keep moving on and follow what Jesus tells us to do.
Yeah, so I've had a couple of thoughts that have been kind of whirling around today, and I think I may have mentioned this to Bill the other day, but I kept feeling like I kept seeing this big net like thrown. It's like thrown across, literally across the whole entire universe, and it's like this golden material. It's like mesh. And I keep thinking about like the Lord of the Rings, you know, the elven armor, the mithril. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie or not, but mithril was like created by the elves it was like impenetrable. Nothing could penetrate it. And then I kept like all day long, I've been going through these different movies in my mind. I thought it was so like strange, like, you know, God, are you trying to create an image for me? Because I'm such a seer that I need imagery, so I can kind of enter in, because that's kind of my doorway on how I get in. And I just felt like that there's this mesh that's being created like that, and it's like everybody's saying, it's like it's going to be attracted by God's light, because that light surrounds him. And I keep going back to 1 John 1:5. God is pure light. There's no trace of darkness in him, and it surrounds him. And if we share in that, then we will not be broken. Our fellowship with one another cannot be broken. So I just have this sense of it's like it's all going to, like, everyone is going to intersect, like Guardians of the Galaxy. That's another movie that's coming to mind. That they all like connected and they created this big mesh, so nothing could get through to the overall mandate of what they were doing. Sorry, so I know that sounds kind of chaotic, but that's kind of what's coming in my spirit tonight.
I almost picture it as a fishing net.
Like that, exactly. Like it's being thrown like a shrimp net. That's how I see it. But it's over the big picture. It's not in a confined space. So everyone that's connected to it will connect together and create this net.
Yeah, that's really good, Robin. Just to tie in what you said with what Patience said about City of Light, I'm getting some revelation on this. We've seen the City of Light is basically in eternity, where you step into all the names of the Godhead, and it's a combined way. So when you do all the names, you're in the City of Light in eternity, not to be confused with the City of Lights in New Earth, where everyone's congregated, because they're lights, they're illuminations. So what I got was New Jerusalem. It's a bit confusing because you enter in New Jerusalem in the age of new beginnings. But as you inherit and possess New Jerusalem almost becomes, and everything becomes one. So New Jerusalem becomes New Earth, becomes eternity. So you start off in a form of New Jerusalem and you end up in a more mature form of New Jerusalem. So I'm seeing that the City of Light effectively then becomes a form of New Jerusalem, if you see what I mean, because all the realms then get stacked on one another. So that's what we've got to learn, that once we've learned to operate independently in these eternity, Zion, New Earth, we then begin stacking them and understand how they all work. And then it got revelation. We actually then become the pillar. Well, I was the pillar years ago, but this is what the pillar is. The pillar is operating in all the realms stacked, and you just become this absolute two-way rod where everything goes up and down, you and all of heaven operating in all the realms together. So I think what we might be led to is some form of, back to saying the tipping point, is understanding what this fullest New Jerusalem, possessed New Jerusalem looks like, because I think that's linked with the tipping point.
Jane, that is good, because I had always thought the tipping point would be the number of people in a particular position. In other words, it needed to have a certain number that had come to a certain place in the journey. And I think what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that is not the case. It simply takes some functioning in the highest function, or a certain level of function.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of things stacked in New Jerusalem, New Earth, a lot of things, Mazaroth, everything. Recently, I've just seen that the storehouses and the treasury room is there as well. But going into the new precepts in the why of creation, I saw, it was going into this house, the star house was, I don't know, it was the why. So I saw that this was like bringing in new earth in some way as well, and I saw a lot of light beings coming into this house. Still having getting understanding of it, but I see this is something to do
I don't know, maybe with the tipping point as well.
Oh, yeah.
Bring in, the new why of the new earth, and bringing everything in through the star houses.
Ma'am, I think you're saying that what you're talking about is the why of the new beginning,
Yeah, the new beginnings.
as opposed to understanding the previous beginning. It's the new beginning, the why.
Yeah.
Now, my spirit's telling me, John, that you hit it right on the money there a minute ago with Jane, is that it isn't the amount of people we bring in here, it's the people we have in here already getting to the ultimate level that makes us spread the light further and broader. That if we can reach our fullest capacities with who we have here now, that we can do the most for the Father.
So that we as a bench can actually bring this about if we function in the place and the way that we're meant to function.
Exactly.
Most certainly. It has only taken one man to do most of these things. Abraham, for example. And so it's quality. And I do think
not
this
quantity.
This is building earth, building soil, but it's got to be high quality.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's how it ties in with what you said. Yeah, because it's people who've possessed New Jerusalem, not just entered. That's why the overcoming journey for ourselves is so important. We can't just get into fathering and it's sabotaging our own journey, or our own journey is very kind of, superficial or unclear what's happening when we're doing certain things. And we have to overcome in these areas to fully possess. So I think I put a post in, didn't I, yesterday, saying about what is possession of New Jerusalem. What did I say? I got some revelation on it. And anyone remember?
I remember you posting it.
Yeah. All right, I've got to find it because I think it's a really key question. I think I put it in fathering. Oh, yes, it was about the 5D encounters. Yeah, we possess it by having these 5D full encounters.
I had that a couple of weeks ago too, Jane, and I was amazed. And where you said you had it was the same place as me, in the secret place. And I did feel like I was falling off a cliff, and I just freaked out. And I was going. That took me a while to think about. And I was going, "Wow, that was so real." I thought I was just really freaking out. But then I tried to go back there, and it just didn't come to me. But yeah, I just been thinking about that. So maybe it's Jesus saying something, especially in the secret place. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, because I'm taking in your body into heaven, and you're operating in these other realms, not just in you in your is the temple. So where are we then? So back to this is all
I guess
meshing.
the question I have for you, Gene, would be if the whole purpose of what I'm hearing from the Spirit is for us to get as far along on the journey to be able to spread this light, and we're all in different stages of the journey. How do we all get to the same stage in the journey to be able to complete our mission?
Well, I think that's what we've got to learn to possess this complete New Jerusalem in its many ways. But I kind of coming back to this thing of judging the ecclesia. I'm trying to think now if this is relevant to what we've just said, with everything we've just said.
That's evaluating quality. Like someone who like tastes all the coffee beans to see which ones are the best.
So do you think there still applies to judge the ecclesia?
Well,
Oh,
I'm not sure that it's necessarily judging, but there is some sort of quality evaluation.
well, it's judging to life. I mean, it's not judging, making an assessment what they're doing wrong. It's judging to life like we do in the Ancient of Days. But I've just got revelation that it's to become the Son of Man, the one Son of Man, we have to have judged the ecclesias to hold the seven candlesticks. Why do we have to have judged them? I'm asking.
But that I think you're in a target there with. We actually step into that function of walking amongst the candlesticks with the stars in our right hand. That's what Jesus was doing while he was walking amongst the candlesticks with the stars in his right hand. He was looking at each ecclesia and saying, yeah, this is what I've been looking for, and no, this isn't quite there yet, and this is what you need to do to get from there to overcoming.
I kind of feel like it's because you're talking about specific folks in each one. It's basically, okay, this certain group, you have the quality to do it. It's obvious. Those are the ones with lightning faces. Okay, you guys are ready to go. And you do that with each one. And I don't feel like it's it's just stating the obvious. Like, it's clear, you're ready. And the ones who aren't ready, that's fine. But you're just noting and identifying those who are at or above the level of quality which is needed to be on the inside.
Yeah, and his judgment actually reveals to them the journey that's ahead for them, the journey that's needed. Now they can see what they need to do to get to that place. Before, they couldn't necessarily see it, but after he judged them, then they could see it. Anybody that wanted to go there now could go there, and anyone didn't want to go there, they could ignore it. But
yeah, Bill, I see it like he was judging them to life to empower them to continue their journey and reach the fullness of it.
that's it. Yeah, he actually, what he did enabled them to be able to finish the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like blessing them, really. So anyone who's listening to this, please don't think it's going saying, oh, you're doing it wrong and we're doing it right. It's not. It's judging to life is a completely different thing from normal judging of a situation you don't fully understand and you're making an assessment. We must understand the concept of judging to life. If you've not come across that, it is a critical way in which the Godhead operate, because one of the farther strands of DNA is judgment and ultimately bringing justice.
Yes.
I kind of feel like you're getting a paper graded and the suggestions about how to do it really well.
Yeah, and it might be in green ink instead of red ink, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it has an aspect of enabling you to do what he's asking you to do.
Yeah.
Hope.
Yeah, I get a real strong sense this is going to accelerate the tipping point, because it's going to allow an awful lot to come and possess New Jerusalem in a more accelerated way. And that is really going to change things. Oh, and of course, last week was all about change. Yep. So this works nicely as to the sort of change we can expect.
Yeah. I think we step into one Son of Man, and I think we step into that image of Jesus walking amongst the candlesticks with the stars in his right hand, that we are one with Jesus as he walks amongst the candlesticks, which are the ecclesias, with the stars in his right hand, and He's observing and enabling all at the same time as he does this.
And at that point, he brings us into the next function where, as he judged the Ecclesias to life, we can judge them too.
Yes. Yes.
And also, hasn't he got the sword of truth in his mouth?
Mm-hmm.
So linking with what Ken said around the bringing out truth, that's a massive thing, because I'm entering my new, well, I'm almost possessing it now. I'm absolutely functioning in my name as truth now all the time. And I'm having huge encounters as the sword of truth. And I'm really bringing truth forward. So that's the other thing, is that when we get more and more, we have the sword of truth in our mouth, we become the sword of truth, we are going to function in a better way. And the more that others do that, they're going to function in more of the fullest heavenly blueprint, not a lower blueprint. So that's what we want. And it's not that, everyone's different personalities, and so they're doing the journey in a different way. I mean, that was old wineskin thinking. That was the reason people used to say there's all these denominations, because we had different personalities and they had to do things different way. I see a lot of it, they're doing it a different way because they see a lower blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And there is really a very narrow path. I mean, for example, you can't say, my journey is doing this, this, and this, but never, ever asking what New Jerusalem, Zion, or everlasting means. Those are they're non-negotiable. I mean, like New Earth, never knowing what New Earth is. It's non-negotiable. It's not a optional extra that we can choose to ignore and focus on this and this and that. So there are certain things I think we have to do as the journey, and the only thing that would stop us is our stubbornness, or taking camp. Yeah. So this truth, it's knowing what matters and what doesn't. I mean, there are some things that people do differently, put more emphasis on this and that earlier on in the journey, and that's not wrong. But we can't compromise as fathers and just, go with where they're at. We constantly have to keep calling them to the bigger picture, so that they don't actually have to spend so much time in some of the levels. I mean, I'm a bit miffed that I spent years now doing all this and that, reports and hours of encounters doing this and this. That I could have, if I'd seen the bigger picture, or someone had told me the bigger picture, I would have accelerated much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think, and there comes a point that if you do too much at a lower level, you get a bit of a burnout. So you've got to find this balance of how you keep the life there, and you don't just sort of do it at a slow plod, because you think that's the only thing that God's showing you currently, and you can't trust anything that anyone else is saying that's been there at the journey. I think that's the balance. You kind of you don't want to trust anything that anyone ever says, but you don't want to equally go and, well, there's nothing that anyone's saying I'm going to take on board. I'm just going to do this whole journey with God, and I only go where he shows me, because you will be blocking some of your gateways. You'll be subconsciously blocking, so he won't be able to show you that full journey. And if you don't honor other apostles, they'll bring a part that you'll never ever see. So that's why it can't be that journey. I know we do an awful lot of emphasizing, you must hear for yourself. And of course you must. But you must always keep in mind that balance. And that's why you have to develop your spirit of discernment of what's truth. And that's why the law of resonance is so important, that you should instantly, as a mature son, be able to say, that thing that someone says is really not resonating at the right frequency. and you may not know why intellectually, but you're operating at that point that you know, so that you go, no, I'm not going that way, and okay, I'll get back to this pathway. And I see there's so many have not developed that, so they are so vulnerable, and they're going off at all sorts of tangents, and some tangents never ever bring you back to the narrow path. So that's the kind of balance. But yeah, is there agreement on the judging of the 7 ecclesias? Oh, we haven't done this though, have we? Because I'm feeling we did one encounter, something about the 7 ecclesias, but was that just looking at these 7 old ecclesias and what their issues were?
But we judged ourselves, and we had like 14 good marks and 3 room for improvement, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
we did
functioned
judge.
this with reference to ourselves. We got, yes, you did a complete, I think it was 11 mandates that were completed, and we had 3 more mandates to do, and the Lord didn't really say good or bad. He just said, you finished this number, and you still got this many more to go. He didn't tell us what they were. I'm sure we're working on at least one of them right now.
But I think that is different from what we're talking about. That one, we judge ourselves as the ecclesia, but we want to judge the other ecclesia, the 7 ecclesias, right?
Right. It was kind of a prerequisite, because you always have to do Jerusalem
Yourself
before you
first.
move. Yeah, before you do some area.
Exactly.
Yes, you do have to judge yourself first. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So that was a prerequisite. That's a good word.
Okay,
Is there
so I'm sorry.
agreement on?
I have a question. So because I'm new to the group and I'm trying to acclimate at this point. So when we're talking about judging to life, I understand that principle. Okay. So I think where I'm a little bit like I'm not completely understanding, what are we judging? What are we judging the 7? Am I not understanding? So we're coming into judging something. We judged ourselves, but why are we judging to life this next part? Does that make sense?
It's a good question.
I think it's all wrong trading.
We're going to judge, and we've judged ourselves, and we're overcoming. But what is it that we are to judge? Why are we judging it?
I think it's things like not operating in full oneness,
Okay.
still living in religious Babylon. That's one of the things. Still living in political Babylon, military Babylon, all the elements of Babylon. I mean, there's just multiple things.
Okay. Okay.
You know, all the stumbling blocks, all the stubbornness, all the self-ego, the self-government, anything that caused anything to be the expression that it is, and particularly if it can't work with other expressions, that is particularly, you know, and all the kind of blocking people that's going on in the new wineskin, you know, or deleting posts. If you write a pleasant post that but you don't agree with what someone else has posted, that it's been deleted. All this kind of stuff that in the new wineskin can no longer be tolerated. In fact, I heard a very key apostle say this week, there is a whole new standard that Father is calling us to in the new wineskin, that what he tolerated in the past, he will not tolerate now. So this is a real journey of purity. We can't carry we can't any of those things that we allowed ourselves to do in the old wineskin. We can't bring that into the new wineskin, and if we do, we will form an absolutely abhorrent version, you know, and that's what we have to get the fear of the Lord. That
fortunately,
that's real good.
This process is removing those obstacles and ensuring that it will come through with high fidelity, because that's the only way it can.
Yeah, that's what I hear you saying, Elliot. You keep repeating it's like the sense of quality, the sense of pureness, holiness, sacredness, where we're really like in dwelling together into that oneness of purity before the Lord.
Yeah, and so
Yes.
this is an exercise to ensure that everybody knows what they need to do to work on in order to be of that quality.
Yes. And I'm also seeing it. Oh, sorry.
Good patience.
I'm also seeing it as this is the time where the scripture becomes applicable, that he's going to shake everything that is shakeable, so that that which is not shakeable will stand, and he will build on it.
I have I'm new here also, so I'll just venture out and say what keeps coming to me is a way to accelerate this is to envision and imagine, use our imagination to imagine everyone already in their perfection, already having received the upgrades, already moving through these realms that they've been operating in and waking up to the truth of New Jerusalem. And really paying attention. To me, what facilitates this moving really quickly is in our own bodies, even our temples, is how does that feel? What engaging as many of our senses as we can in imagining what does it look like for the ecclesia to be awake in the oneness and the union that we already have, but aren't awake to. So if we engage in imagining it as I think this is why Jesus could judge to life, as you call it, was because he saw the perfection already. He saw them as they truly were and said, this is who you are, now get here. Or this is your option, this is your journey.
That's perceptive. The chapter 1 of Revelation, the Son of Man we were speaking about, that is what all of us look like in perfection. That's all of us in oneness with Jesus in full maturity, as one King, as one Son of Man. I also see this as a opening up of the flow for people in the 7 ecclesias to flow into New Jerusalem. Somehow we've done a lot in the past with plumbing, with getting the flow moving.
Yes.
And this is one more aspect of turning on the pipes, unplugging the pipes, getting the flow moving from the one place to the other. From the 7 ecclesias, there's a pathway open for people to flow from there into New Jerusalem, into the fullness of becoming New Jerusalem.
Oh, it's really good, Bill. Yeah, because I was questioning all that plumbing in New Earth a while back. Oh, why are we doing all that? How silly is that? But I can see that now. Yeah, because flow is the key quality that we must have. So, and Heather, what you said was really, really good. And the patience. What did you just say? Something really in that. What was
Shaking.
it?
Shaking everything that can't be.
Yeah. Yes, because I've been asking around if the shaking of world systems is on the prophetic timetable. We personally, as forerunners, have got past the judgment part of the prophetic timetable. We've done so much judging to life, and we're moving on to the shaking of world systems. What implications does that have for us? And then I actually got that, could we anyways, to take it, this is not for today, but it's just for another time. Could we or should we do stuff on minimizing the shaking of world systems, or is it the other way around? Do we need to bring on the shaking of world systems? That's it's another mandate.
No, I've got
Jane, I see that he is bringing us into him to be the unshakable. And when we take our place as the unshakable, then we can do the mandates for them the Babylon,
Yeah.
Yes.
I
That's
saw
what
something today on this that's helpful, because I think we're all in the back of our mind a little scared about shaking because we don't want to see everything collapsing. And there's a verse in Scripture in Revelation that says, "The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of our Christ." What I saw finally in that is the kingdoms don't collapse. A kingdom is any group of people. I mean, it can be a corporation, it can be a local government, it can be a state government, it could be an international corporation. It's any group of people is a kingdom. The kingdom itself does not collapse. It just changes. It transitions from the old to the new. So we're not destroying everything and there's going to be nothing but rubble around. We're actually switching it out. We're transitioning it from old to new. It shakes the old out of the kingdom, leaving only the new.
So the new can come and be establishing it.
Yeah. So it's not destructive at all. It's just removing the old.
Yeah, this is something the Spirit has been working with me on the nations and what's coming with the shaking of the foundation. It's not going to be a bad thing. It's going to be just exactly what John talked about. The bad is going to be flushed out, and it's going to bring good.
Exactly.
There may be a little bit of chaos in the transfer of these systems, but in the long run, it's going to be a good thing. So it's not
flushing out. That's shaking the plumbing so so that now it's worked. It's not plugged up anymore. That's good.
Amen.
I'm actually seeing it more as a bunch of well-placed, controlled birds, and having a lot of fertile ground to regrow. So, I'm actually more of the mind to bring it on faster and more vigorously, with the maximum mercy applied.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say really quick, I'm finding it interesting that we're talking about these 7 ecclesias and bringing them into New Jerusalem. As we were talking about that, the image I saw was the Hanukkah candle light. I forget what you call it. And I just saw the servant candle lighting the other 7 candles. And I'm marking that, that we're coming up on that even in a couple of days now, and this is coming on our radar to do. And so that I thought that was interesting. So I'm just saying that to say I think it's key that we're doing this today. And then also, it's just, just drawing out, looking at this in an overview kind of way. This process that we were talking about in the beginning, I just kept hearing how the bride preparing without and getting ready to be without spot or wrinkle. It's just really powerful to me that this is literally the process that we're going through that we're talking about today. I just wanted to share that. It just, to me, the perspective of it's just really beaming where we really are in this earthly timeline.
Wow. This agreement, what position, governmental position, do you see to judge the Ecclesias from?
I really like that image of holding the stars and having the sword mouth thing.
I was just wondering if the parable of the virgins had any application, as they were judged when the door was shut on some of them.
That is good. 5 did prepare and 5 did not prepare until the last minute.
You, Noreen, I'm checking with you, says yes.
Yes, yes. This has definitely been resonating in me over the last couple of days. I just said, Lord, my jar is so full, it's spilling it over. But I know it's because, because I've really been paying attention. I've been paying attention, I've been engaging, I've been making the time, making the space. We talked about change last week and making the space, but I really feel like that the 10 virgins there's something definitely connected to the 5 who are ready, to the 5 who are not.
Noreen, the 5 who were not ready are the shakables, and the 5 who were ready are the unshakables. So we make a choice. Am I shakeable or unshakable?
Very good.
Yeah.
Wow. And we did this thing about getting rooted. If you haven't listened to that encounter a couple of weeks back, we were rooted. What were we rooted in? Rooted in New Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, and I sensed after that I was unshakable.
Hallelujah.
Gonna
Deep
come
roots.
across.
That's good.
Yeah, I was really. I could see I was just this tree, and I wasn't going anywhere.
Come on. Rooted and grounded.
And
Interesting too.
yeah, and immortal too, huh?
Yes, and if we may, can we say I'm unshakable? Just put it out there. Come on.
I'm unshakable.
I'm
I
unshakable.
am
Unshakable.
I'm unshakable.
See yourself as your feet are going down, putting roots down into New Earth, and that's why you're unshakable, because you're getting rooted to New Earth. Be immortal, not saying I've had enough of all this hassle and pain and suffering. I want to die. But you're tying into your destiny, that your destiny overrides that, and all the shaking that goes on is actually not impacting you. But what I was getting around the judgment position, because I've been wrestling with, there's no judgment in New Earth and New Jerusalem in the age of new beginnings and the age of Zion, and is the whole judging thrones slightly an age below that? And then, as I just asked, we weren't to just do the typical judgment like we do from the Ancient of Days, but we were to stand complete in the position of one Son of Man. So we stand how that vision is, and because we stand there with the 7 candlesticks around us, they are judged by that act of taking that new position, wherever that new position is, as the one Son of Man.
Man, I just have to say, I am detecting the spirit of the fear of the Lord here. Is anybody else feeling that?
Woo, yes.
Yeah, it's really calling us to it's just I don't even know what the word to use. It's almost like a calling to get in place, to take our place, not just to us, to the ecclesia. And I see it's one thing that's really important too is to discern the time that we're in right now. The Earth timeline, that is really significant, and to take heed, to do what we need to do.
Yeah, I've been engaging the spirit of fear all week, because I've had that tipping point feeling, and what was going on is just amazing. So I knew I had to take it slow and just make sure everything's in line, get everything in line. And still doing that, but with wisdom as well.
Yeah, I'm great.
So with both of them, I've been really engaging with them. But that's good.
What I'm hearing is the Spirit's telling me to do the mission I put you here for.
Yes, yes, yes. Elliot, you're breaking up. Can you say that again?
Do your job.
I'd like
And
to read this Son of Man passage in chapter 1, and we can step into it if that's okay with you. There's about 7 verses or so. So John says, "Then I turned to see the voice that spoke with me, and having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the 7 lampstands, one like the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the feet, and girded about the chest with a golden band." Step into this as I read it. "His head and hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes like a flame of fire. His feet were like fine brass, as if refined in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. He had in his right hand 7 stars. Out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was like the sun shining in its strength. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. But he laid his right hand on me, saying to me, 'Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am he who lives and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And I have the keys of Hades and of death.'" And he goes on to talk about, and he says, "The mystery of the 7 stars which you saw in my right hand, and the 7 golden lampstands. The 7 stars are the angels, or messengers of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands which you saw are the 7 churches." Jane, I think you had a sense of mandate was simply to step into this position.
Yes, yes, and I think this is answering possibly the question of what will happen at the end. That it won't be Jesus coming on a cloud, and a cloud just means a realm, really. So we're not talking literally sitting on a fluffy gas thing. So when we're clouds, we are actually just operating in certain realms. So rather than Jesus coming down, everybody looking up and going, "Oh, Jesus is coming down," we will be so in oneness with him. We will be descending with him. If you see what I mean, in this vision of the Son of Man with the Son of God.
You're absolutely right about that, Jane. We are one with him as the Son of Man. So it's not just him coming alone. It's us coming with him in him as the Son of Man. And
I mean, now it's obvious, isn't it? Because how can we ever be in all this oneness and somehow Jesus is separate and we're sitting on the earth looking up?
No.
I mean, it's obvious now, isn't it? But
yes,
it's not obvious.
Yeah. And the scripture says the sign of the Son of Man appears, and that's us within him, one as one. Pardon me.
And as he is, so are we. As he is right now, so are we. We are in oneness with him. And he said, "When you see me, you see the Father." So now when you see Jesus, you see us. And when you see us, you see Jesus.
Amen.
I was hearing translation for some reason.
Say it again, Doreen.
I was just hearing translation. So it's all like, it's just in twinkling of an eye, it's translation. So, if our eyes do behold him, it's only within a twinkling of an eye, and we are descend with him. Our translation that happens so fast that it all becomes one.
Mm-hmm. I see that.
Twinkling of an
Come on.
There's something here that the revelation of Jesus and us and him and he and the Father, But the practical application of it when judging to life the ecclesia, I feel like that in and of itself is enough to like blow up your brain. So like, you know, that's all you have to say. Did you know that it's a collaboration? It's like, what do you mean? And then walk through the concept. That's pretty big. And then if you recognize the fury, intensity, and awesome scale of the fear of the Lord through that, I figure most stumbling blocks just evaporate. They're gone.
I believe, Elliot, that was the mandate tonight, was to spread the truth and spread the light. And I think that's how we do that, by the judgment of life.
Other thing that I'm seeing too is in various ways we've been going through the revelation of Jesus Christ as part of our work on this bench. But having stepped into the Son of Man, which by the way is only chapter 1, the rest of this is all going to make sense in a bigger picture way than it ever did before, because to be able to function in all the rest between chapter 1 and the end, you got to step into this first. This thing is going to make a whole lot more sense. All the work we've done, add this into that part of the picture, and all the pieces are going to come together now for us.
And Bill, as you were reading the chapter, what I saw was Jesus standing there, and we were standing there right with him and in him. It's like we're one, and we all had that sword in our mouths.
Yes. I had the sense that it had to be read out loud, because Revelation 1 verse 3 says that there's a blessing for the one who reads it aloud, there's a blessing for the one that hears it read aloud, and there's a blessing for the ones who do it. We just did it. So we
That's
just
so
got
good.
out of 3 blessings. I got all 3, so forgive me. But
Triple threat.
Let's just take a moment to really stand in that position and get used to this. So just place yourself with the sword of truth in your mouth, holding 7 stars, the 7. I sense really the key commander.
So powerful.
Just honor those angels, those massive commanders of armies. Let's just see the 7 candlesticks around us, the ecclesias. Let's honor their journey, honor their sacrifice. Invite them into oneness and the full blueprint, and the life that they will see being the Son of Man, the immense download they will get from that. We bless them immensely, and we together, the 7 ecclesias, as the one Son of Man, so that all can be work together in harmony, love, peace, honor, patience with each other. Feel the intensity of what the sword in the mouth feels like. What is that doing for you? What does it mean for you? I sense that's really connected with the voice of many waters.
Yes.
The voice, the thundering voice. God speaks out. So you can speak with a thundering voice. As you breathe out, you are speaking speaking truth over governmentally, over the universe. It's a bit like going back to when you roar as a lion. You kind of like roar over this. You create this immense sound. And that's a huge governmental act. See, it's part of one of the rivers of breath, air. We must become more familiar with breathing life into things and having this roaring voice. Thunderous voice. Just see now, if you picture yourself, actually you're in New Jerusalem as the one Son of Man, and you're descending over the all creation, not just the earth, all creation. You're above the star houses. You're in oneness with all of heaven, and you're descending triumphantly as one who's possessed New Jerusalem. Imagine the glory, the honor, as people see you descending as the bride, well, as the wife, really, now, you more than the bride. Feel that emotion of the honor, the glory, the joy, the destiny. This is what you are called for. This is what you are elected for in eternity. To have the glorious revealing of the Son of Man. Just share if you had anything else happen in that encounter.
I got the sense that the seven candlesticks agreed and said yes to the evaluation and recommendations.
I had the sense when we were celebrating and coming down as New Jerusalem that it was this mutual celebration of everyone as the ecclesia, and then as individual parts of the ecclesia. There was such joy and celebration and excitement, and it was just powerful.
Every time I engage Son of Man in that passage, I just always have my right hand open with my palm up, and I just know those seven stars are in my right hand.
Wow. I also saw that the sword in our mouth is also pay. That we are releasing a frequency, not just even the sound speaking, but a frequency, whether we are aware or not, which is changing the multiverse and even the decades ahead of us. It's like it echoes, it goes forward, the sound goes further than we can even imagine. It goes ahead of us into times to come.
Ooh, I'm tracking with you on that, Patience, because what keeps coming to me is how the number of virgins can be changed. Instead of it being 50-50, 5 wise and 5 unwise, that number of virgins that had more than enough oil can change. That's what I keep saying.
Yes, yes.
I have an idea. I think I think it refers more to it being two, the group being two and being a number of judgment. Two groups, I mean. So it's not about the 10 so much, it's about two groups, and two is the number of judgment.
Yeah, I've always seen like my voice coming out of my mouth like it's been typed out as soon as I speak it, and it always hits the target, and that word comes to mind, that our words will not go void, but will hit, which do what it is meant to do. But that's the way I've always seen it. But yeah, many other different ways as well, the voice of many waters, but that's just the recent one.
Yes. So I felt like immediately when Jane started talking about us holding the stars, it's like immediately I feel like I went up into the heavenlies, like into the stars themselves. And I felt like what I saw was like Jesus was standing next to me, and the stars were looking at us. And he pointed to the stars and he said, I have given you all dominion over this vast place. I've given you dominion, Robin. And it's as if the stars were in submission to us and the choices and the mandates that we make. Like he's giving us over this dominion.
Wow. Wow, I really honor Robin and Heather, how you quickly moving into this. Absolutely. Wow, it's just incredible acceleration. I love it.
Yeah, true. Awesome.
And I got that we were like a commander in chief.
Yes,
yes. The royalty, isn't it? The queen and things can be commander in chief of the armies. We're commander in chief of all the angels. So when we worship angels, angels can't actually hold glory. And I think that's why they are a very different category, and what happens to them is a very different scenario from us. But can you imagine just being commander-in-chief of all chief? I mean, Uriel is one of, for this house, he's one of the commanders. I mean, can you imagine being commander-in-chief of all of them? That had never really been clear to me, even though I'm working oneness with all the angels. I hadn't seen that fully.
But it's almost like the stars there's something about the stars to me. It's like the stars were looking at us to give the command. That was my sense. Like he was saying, I'm giving you all of this. It's at your command. What is it that you want from it? I mean, I don't know. It's just that was my sense. It's like they were looking to us. They were looking to us.
Well, yeah, I think why. I mean, we've got testimonies of people creating stars and then seeing explosions in the sky, and we're to rule over all the planets, and not just because there is an impact of what the other planets have on us. So we have to grow in understanding of all that.
There's something else too, that each of the letters to the 7 citywide ecclesias begins with that it's written to the angel of that ecclesia. So what is being spoken to that angel. And that's for me, that has been the question I've been asking. I want the answer to is, what are these angels? What is the function And that the answer, I think we can see now, is that we speak to them and they pass it along to the ecclesia. Because I'll read you the first part of the first letter. To the angel of the church of Ephesus write, these things says he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand. So each of the letters is written to the angel of that individual citywide ecclesia. So yeah.
I'm sorry, Bill. I didn't mean to
Go ahead,
cut you.
Jasmine.
No, I was just saying, I see it when she was saying that, when Robin was saying that, I saw too, in conjunction with what Jane saw, us commanding the time, as the stars and the whole solar system create the system of time, just us commanding that, kind of like Joshua did as we need to. And yeah, that's what came to me when she said that. And oh man, I lost my other thought. But yeah, this is really powerful. Oh, and with the sword, what I saw with the sword in our mouths, I just saw us beating back what isn't true with the truth. And that's what I was seeing with that, just how we'll bring a lot of truth to the ecclesia.
Oh, wow. That is so awesome.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I agree with the person who was speaking about commanding the stars, but looking at it from the point of view of the Mazzaroth, which are formations of the stars. Because I did have an experience once where in encounter, one of those in the Mazzaroth was waiting for my command, just waiting for me to say go, right? So as far as having the command over all things, the universe, the stars, and all, yes, because he has said that he has given us dominion of all things. And so if we have dominion of all, then we are able to speak to all, and they can basically be servant to us. And I would just like to speak also about the sword in our mouths. I saw the sword spinning clockwise, and then I saw it as a sort of fire that pierced, that came through and pierced. And so the piercing of the darkness, what it actually does is brings understanding, whereby the darkness is a lack of understanding. And so just saying that we carry all of that in us, we carry the sword, we become the sword, and it pierces through lack of understanding.
Yeah, one of the first encounters I had years and years ago, I saw myself holding an orb, and this is why I understand that the royalty, they hold this orb with the cross on the top. It's the world, and they basically got this orb in their right hand, saying that they're kings and queens over that. So if you haven't had that encounter, that's really worth asking. Now, where are we going with this? Have we completed everything? Oh, no. Yeah, no, I just sensed from what you said, Bill, as the angel of our house is Uriel, to just release him to bring a full truth of the big picture, even to us, really, the areas that we've missed it. And there was something else I felt that we needed a bit of dialogue around this whole judging. Where is that right, that there's no judging in the higher realms? Get clear, because we always thought Ancient of Days was in eternity, so that's why I'm a bit confused.
Okay. I think I see it because Jesus is walking in the midst of the candlesticks. He's come down to walk amongst the churches. He's down amongst them. He's not up somewhere in where there isn't any judgment. He's actually walking in their midst, and you already said it, Jane. His presence brings the judgment with him. Our presence is Son of Man here, walking amongst the ecclesias where they are. Brings that judgment to life with it, and I do like the concept of releasing Uriel to finish this full mandate with reference to this house.
One thing the Spirit's told me tonight, Jane, and maybe this will make more sense, is that one united body is the leader of the ecclesias, the kind of the guidepost. That's kind of our mandate, is what I've been told by the Spirit. And if that's kind of our mandate to kind of be the forerunner or leader of the other ecclesias, then we certainly need to judge the other ecclesias if they're going to put them in where they need to be or follow the Father's mission.
Wow, that's incredible.
I have a.
Oh, go on.
I just got a vision of when we walk amidst the ecclesia candlesticks as Son of Man. That tongue, which is a sword, immediately takes care of. I like to think of it as fire, but immediately discerns and does its job. There's no effort. That's just who you are. You burn that hot, and everything that isn't pure just gets burned. And the other piece is absolutely send Uriel, because after all, aren't angels? Doesn't that mean messenger?
Yeah. So I think what we're saying then, that in perfection, New Jerusalem, New Earth, all judgments are complete. So we just stand in it rather than judge it in a council like we would have done before.
It's almost like we bring judgment with us without even having to do it. We deliver the completed judgment just by our presence.
Yeah, I feel that too.
I totally agree with that.
And it looks a lot like the fear of the Lord.
Yeah, because this is what I'm wrestling with, this whole thing around as well, how legislating, on the one hand, I see that on the one hand, things are complete for us individually, and we can live out of that. But for the Earth timeline, they're not complete. So maybe in that sense, all the verdicts are not complete for the Ecclesia timeline. But as we stand in it, living out of the full completion, we are bringing that completion to the Ecclesia's timeline.
I just heard something. It's a scripture that says we are Christ. And I know, like, a lot of people can take that scripture and say that we are Christ, meaning that we belong to Him. But I just heard and saw a difference saying that we are Christ, which means that we are all the replica of Him within this earth realm. And that's who we become here, on earth, and that's who we become wherever we go. So we become omnipresent in all that He is because we are Christ. That's who we are. It's the forerunner, and we're the ones who are in Him to represent and become all that He is.
Yeah, that's it. And it's around the omnipresence. And I think this is why this reconciles both sides. Some saying everything's finished and complete, and others saying that no, it's not. Both are true. And we have to get our heads round how they can be true in the individual, but not true for the corporate ecclesia. but we can merge the two. And therefore, we don't have to separate and create denominations of those that believe Christ has finished everything and those that don't. They're both true. We've just got to grow in that understanding that there are several timelines. It's not just living on our own timeline. Wow, we've got to get that message out, because it's going to, otherwise there's just going to be all these camps. And people are going to think, oh, no, they're not right. They're just in dead works. I mean, we even got someone saying to us, all the things we're doing now are, are they dead works? I mean, this is the crazy thing. We have to get this message out that these two parallel truths can work together.
Maybe send it out with Uriel.
I agree.
Yeah. Shall we do that?
I'm seeing it like a train track, Jane, with two rails, two parallel rails.
Yeah, I always thought that years ago. That was one of the first things picture I had when I was wrestling with predestination versus free will. Just saw the two train tracks. Okay, so let's release as gate. Let's release Uriel through us, and honor him and his army of angels to bring the message of everything we've spoken about tonight. And we bring so much more oneness into the ecclesia.
Woo!
I keep
Wow.
seeing sword in our mouth. I keep seeing the swords almost turning into tuning forks, sending out a certain vibration of vibration of a frequency of truth, healing, restoration. Just it goes from a sword, like I said, to vibrating to send out this frequency.
I see fire, arrows of fire being shot out across eternity that brings truth and light to everybody.
And let's.
I saw this massive angel coming out of me, and this mighty army underneath them, all with I don't know, they look like spears or something. They were, yeah, amazing.
Arrows.
Yeah.
Arrows to hit the mark. Because there is a scripture that says, to send forth your arrows. So, yeah, it's all about redemption.
Yeah, Jane, I don't think we need to worry about getting it out to people. I think if we do the missions that the Father gives us, that it'll get the word out for us, like what we just did there.
Well, I was just coming back to that question I had earlier on of what difference practically about how we do things. Maybe we could just ask quickly on that.
I got something about you're basically doing it when we do it as Son of Man, Son of God. That's like from the highest level. So the operation is, let's just say, a universal one by the very nature of God. And it looks like God because it is God. And it inspires the fear of the Lord as it carries out its mission.
I was just listening to you, Elliot. Son of Man is Ben Adam, son of Adam. It is the one new Adam, is what we're talking about here. When we talk about Son of Man, it's the one new Adam.
So does the sword represent the sword of truth, which is the release that we're standing in right now?
It's speaking of the word of God coming out of our mouths,
Yes.
but it's being pictured as a sword because it does have a function as a sword. I think it's a two-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Divides things,
It's the truth.
bone and marrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's manifest because we are one with him.
Yes.
Yeah, like to pierce through the darkness, because like we are the light, we are the door, and our presence is Christ amongst the people, and so we basically pierce through the darkness as that sword to bring light.
As in all things, Robin, it's truth and light that separates light from darkness. And as in all things, people have free will to choose light or darkness. It's up to them.
Well done, everyone.
Are we complete?
So practically, can you see anything? I kind of just sense we should probably be trying to relate to leaders a little bit more privately. Building, see if we can get a rapport going, if they'll even talk to us. Yeah, there's one actually I approached. I might two I approached this week. But I think that still has to be very much our agenda. We can't be isolated. A lot of them do conferences together, and we've got to find other ways of connecting.
Well, when a person on the earth confirms what's been going on in their, spirit life, that's a great way to build immediate rapport.
You hear anything else?
Yeah, I heard they agreed. Like we're in. So that's the deal.
You were hearing, Elliot, that those ecclesias were in agreement with what we had done.
It's what I'm saying. I mean, that was like immediate. So I believe it.
Yeah.
Practically speaking, then, is barriers have come down.
Yes, I'm arguing with that, and I'm even releasing that because I'm releasing that they are one with God, and because they are one with God, and we are one with God, we are one.
Indeed, we are.
And that they're open to dialogue, they're open to exchange and receive and give freely.
Yeah, and I was just hearing no separation. So although there's different opinions and, but still there's no separation. It can all merge together as one.
When they see us, they'll see the Father.
Yeah, and do the next most important thing that's right in front of you, right? So that goes for Jane, it goes for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it's not just kind of a thing for me and Bill to do either. I think there'll be barriers, bridges that you can build. Other people will be able to build that we can't. People will trigger with us, but they won't trigger with you. So I think that others can build these.
I think practically that when we engage this, that at least one name will come to mind.
I gotta say, everybody here we've all got a piece in it. Everyone has something, and it's remarkable. We all have relationships, and we're far enough along to where everybody is their own something or other. Doesn't matter if it's got a specific title. Heaven already knows you. If you're within the hearing of my voice, heaven knows you. So do your job. What's right in front of you, the ones you know.
Yeah, there's a guy I've already come across this week. I really sense we should connect with. He's called Chris Carter. Speaks a lot about the ages. That's right. Why we're in the age of Aquarius. That's why we're having all these major changes in the wineskin.
Yeah, that was the reference I gave like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a little earlier. Absolutely, positively.
Yeah, so someone might want to look him up and connect with him and introduce what we do. Say we're in agreement with that age, and we've been doing this for some time.
I want to put this out there. Next week is Christmas Day. Are we meeting or not?
No, I think we said we'd leave next week.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, the only question is whether the week after. But should we just finish the recording and then we'll?
Yeah, let's do the recording off here.
Yeah.